get married right before the Equine Unit, so the students wanted to see the pictures. These are my horses. They will be joining us for the lab. We have Rain. She's the paint. We have Chick, quarter horse, and Millie, quarter horse. To talk about some of our objectives. There are 3 pages of objectives. Let's reference back to this and apply the checklist of how are you doing on accomplishing these objectives. First, let's start with understanding common equine terminology today. There are disciplines that are common for equine terminology. Please watch this video and try to list before the video how many disciplines you can think of. They are missing a few that I caught, and if you can add to my list, I would be greatly appreciated. So they're missing mounted shooting and jousting. So let's go ahead and watch that in another screen, and then we'll come back and talk about those. So hopefully you enjoyed watching that. We have 2 major classifications of English and Western. So English includes like the dressage, jumping, cross, racing, and hunting. Then Western would be the reining, the barrel racing, the cutting, and the maybe trail riding. There's tons of mounted games, driving, trick riding, endurance, vaulting, ski juring, archery, harness racing, continuous more types of their therapy horses. Anyways, there's a reason why they are the most popular livestock. They are considered livestock for being a 1,000-pound animal. As you can see, they are extremely athletic. They both have the best design as far as being able to move quick and be very muscular and agile. At the same time, they have the worst flaw designs because they have many parts that can get injured, and the reason we need veterinary medicine to help them be able to do those maneuvers and some of those athletic sports. So a little bit in history. After World War I, Nixon did a protection act from slaughtering horses. So this was signed in 1971, and it allows free roaming horses and burros act to remain on BLM lands. Now there's often times where they have to capture and remove or use like a non-hormonal fertility control methods. So you can look more into that on how we control our, what a lot of people like to term the wild horse population, but truthfully they are not wild horses, they are just feral horses. Here are some fun facts of anatomy. We talked about the no gallbladder and they can't vomit in the GI unit, and that they are also obligate nasal breathers. So you will not see a horse breathing out of its nose. I'm going to see if I can find a picture, but why don't you pause here, take a second, and look up and see if you can find a description to depict how a horse soft palate interfaces with their glottis to make them obligate nasal breathers. I found this recording by Vetfolio, and there was another schematic cartoon when I looked up the horse anatomy that makes them obligate nasal breathers. Okay, now back to our PowerPoint. Taxonomy, more common terms. So the only true wild horses are the Przewalski's horse. I hope I am pronouncing that correct. They are actually still in the mammalian family, but their order is based on their being single or odd-toed ungulates. So they are in the same order that our tapirs and our rhinoceros are, as single-toed ungulates. There are even toed, or I should say there's odd and even toes. So our even toes would be like our bovine species and our other species that have 2 toes. Rhinoceros and the tapirs have 3. So we're going to hunt and find these terminologies. We have 2 pages of them, and then there are classifications. So please take a moment, look at those. We will jump right back into that. I mean, go ahead and try to look up what you have for these terminologies. And we're going to get into some breeds. So just to let you know, this is a quarter horse. I like to always refer to them as big butt quarter horse. Their conformation is fairly square. So let's start. A mare is an intact female horse over 4 years old. A brood mare is a breeding female. A stud is a breeding male. A stallion is an intact male over 4 years old. A maiden mare has never been bred. A sire is meant to be the father. The dam is the mother. And a gelding is a castrated male horse over 4 years old. Our next page of terminology. A foal is considered a young horse. It can be of either sex, male or female. A filly, though, is a female horse under 4 years old. Foaling is the term for giving birth, and a colt is a male horse less than 4 years old. Often people say colt in reference to foal, but let's make sure we get our terminology correct. So equine is anything that includes horse, pony, donkey, or mule. A hand is a form of measurement. It equals 4 inches. A herd is a group of equine, but a band is a group of equines with 1 male stallion for the breeding. So you will most often find this in our ferals. A pony is actually the size of 8.2 hands to 14.2 hands. And this is a Friesian for the breed. Alright, so for age, we talked about foal being any young horse, but a weaning is less than 1 year. I feel like that should say weanling, but it's less than 1 year, has been weaned. A yearling is from the age of 1 to 2 years. We have a short yearling, which is closer to a year, and a long yearling, which is closer to 2 years. Gender is whether they are male or female, and we refer to them as mares or geldings or stallions or whatever they are. So the abbreviation in the medical record would be M. So for dogs, we would write female with the letter I, so F and then the letter I for female intact, but for horses it would just be the letter M. Most mares are intact unless for some reason there was a need to have a surgery, but the spays on a female horse are not usually very common. So this horse is the Clydesdale. There are many different sizes. We will get into that after we talk about measurement and the type of use. So we have pleasure, working, sport, which could include showing, and then breeding are the 4 common types of uses. Okay, so a hand equals 4 inches. You measure at the point of the shoulder, and it's always best to have your clinic stay in the same range, so you are always measuring at the same point. So if you always measure the horses at the point of the shoulder, at the top of the withers, right where the hair ends, then be consistent and do that for every horse. We also use the same point when we are weight taping them. So on the opposite side of the horse height measurements is the weight. And for decimals, we use 0.1, 0.2, or 0.3, and then it goes up to the next hand. So if you have an animal that is 6 inches, it would be 1.2. If you have an animal that is 7 inches, it would be 1.3 hands. And then at 8 inches, you would call that 2 hands. We don't use the decimal point, like 2 inches does not equal 0.5. Here is an example video of how you can measure hands. Please take a minute and watch this. When we have time in class, we will be practicing on ourselves, and this will be one of the first steps in getting to know your horse on the lab form. Okay, so we notice that they like to use the dot in the center or the dash instead of the decimal point, and I think this is a very good idea so that we don't get confused of the decimal point and think that it's meant to be a tenth, because it's not. It only goes in 1, 2, or 3. I just used the term of 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 so that we had some reference of how it flows. Okay, now into our classifications of horses. We have light horse, draft horse, and ponies based on their hands and their height and their weight. And here we have an Arabian, and then we have a Belgian. On the next page here, we have a Morgan, and these are light horses. So, riding horses, pleasure horses, gaited horses, hunter, jumper, they usually range anywhere from 3 hands to 17 hands in the range of 900 to 1,400 pounds. So, light horses that are often gaited. Gaited is another one of those terms that refers not only to how many steps a horse is walking, but also how they walk. So, gaited horses have a way that when they walk, I consider it like the Cadillac of horses, and they have more of like a gliding with how they move their body frame so that it is not so bouncy. Go ahead and watch this video so you can see there's a comparison with how a regular quarter horse, the rider is bouncing up and down in the trot versus the gaiter horse in the trot. Their legs move at a different pace, and pace is a different type of gait. So we will get into the types of gaits because I don't mean for it to be confused with gaited horses. So there are type of gaits like walking, trotting, cantering, loping, running. Those are types of gaits, but a gaited horse means gait is just how we walk. I hope you did get a chance to watch the funny video of the foal with its legs moving 1,000,000 miles an hour. That is a gaited foal. It was very cute. So light horses can also be stock horses. So our quarter horses are Appaloosa, which is pictured in this picture, and our paint horses. So next are horses that are the hunter jumper, and this is a thoroughbred pictured, and it is a breed of warm blood, which are frequent hunter jumpers. Other light horses are race horses, so these are thoroughbreds, but there are also other popular racing horses, the standardbred and the Morgan horse, as well as the quarter horse, which got its name because it can run the fastest in a quarter mile. We will move on to our draft horses. So to classify as a draft, you do have to be over 15 hands and weigh more than 1,400 pounds. There are some horses that are 15 hands, but their frame is very slender. A thoroughbred can easily be over 15 hands, but their weight is not quite as bold and stocky. So on the left here, we have the Belgian, and then we have the Percheron over on the right. Then our next classification is the ponies. They are going to be small in size. They do have to be less than 14.2 hands and 900 pounds. So they are very popular with children. So on top we have a Welsh pony. So you notice that it is the same height as the human. So you can get an idea of how tall that animal actually is. And then we have the Shetland, which the very top of the Shetland's withers probably would only come to like the waist of this human. Other classifications, we have donkeys, which are called burros. So a female donk is a jenny and a male is a jack. Go ahead and play. They make a wonderful sound. They are quite interesting in the equine world. We do recommend for them to get the same vaccines and same treatment. However, there is a little bit difference with how they process things, and not everything is considered labeled use. So a mule is a female horse with a male donkey. So you can maybe remember mule for mare, so that's a female horse. And a hinny is a male horse with a female donkey. And maybe because hinny sounds like Ginny, it's the female that we're referencing to remember those. Alright, so we're going to take a little break, and I want you to just think about all the types of horses that can be ridden. Can they all be ridden? Why or why not do you think that? Then we will get into horse breeds. There are many types of breeds, variety of sizes, and colors, which is often what people breed their horses for, is for color. So in breed selection, because colors look pretty, but other times it's better to not mess with those genes. You do have to think about the cost, not only the purchase price. There's no such thing as a free horse, because then there's the care, the maintenance, the time it takes for training, the cost for training, the disposition, the breed, where are you going to board this horse at, do you have the property, many things to consider when you're selecting a breed. What their purpose is, and these are often common popular breeds, but we're going to do a little research. If you have a favorite breed, I would like to know maybe what is their average size, what classification would they fall into, do you prefer a color, or do you like this certain color of a horse? And what kind of uses does it have? So this is Miss Schwartz's horses. She has Moose, Sean, and Einstein. Einstein is the donkey, Moose is the Arabian, Sean is a quarter horse paint. These are my mares. So Rain, Chick, and Millie that I introduced to you at the beginning. So now let me discuss a little bit about the project. Research a breed. We are going to do a discussion board. It will be a first come, first serve for breed choice. So the first person to post a breed, that means nobody else can research that breed. If you already looked into that breed, that's fine. It's well worth it to look into another one. So I'd like us to get a picture posted of the breed and describe a few things, interesting facts that you found out about it, average height, weight, what classification it falls into, and first come, first serve. And then once all of those were posted, we will go back and comment on 2 more horse breeds. Feel free to explore outside of the breed flashcards that we have made, because there actually are lots more different types of breeds. Okay, quiz time. I say get your boards ready, but let's just see if you can guess this breed. It's not part of our breed flashcards, but it is a very popular, beautiful breed. You can see how people might like it because of the long hair and the coloring. This is our Gypsy Vanner. It classifies as a draft horse, about 13 to 16 hands, many colors, known for their level top line. Okay, how well did you do? Can you answer these questions? What are 3 classifications of horses? What is the difference between them? What is the difference between a foal and a colt? If a horse is 15 hands, how tall is it? Why can't horses vomit? And how do horses sleep standing up? Ooh, that was something I do not think I mentioned. That has to do with their stay apparatus, is what it's called. So it is a stay apparatus. And then what protects horses from slaughter? If you need a moment to look into these key points, go ahead and pause here. I'm going to finish this recording. We will go back though and just make sure we have a grasp on a few of those objectives. Okay, based on what we've covered so far, you should definitely be able to explain the different purposes of horses for humans, the taxonomy of the horse, and some common terminology.